Disney has been going through the motions on Snow White, all but saying we need to get this thing over with. I mean, if you've got theater owners or a major theater chain that is saying this to THR or Deadline or Variety, that's pretty bad. That's really, really bad because they're very familiar and very accustomed to dealing directly with the marketing departments of distributors like Disney. And if they're talking to their Disney distribution partners over there about this film, and the theater owners are telling you that these people over at Disney marketing just want to get this over with, that's incredible to me.
Renegade Online.
This is an amazing title to me from the Hollywood Reporter. And I saw this morning. You texted me about this. I just laid eyes on this right before I was leaving the office to go to lunch.
Which version are we?
This is
looking at here.
Well, this is I don't still have the other version. I know you sent me the PDF. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna pull that up because there was some language in this article that was definitely changed. We're going to show you in just a minute what that was. But I want to go with the article that's up there right now, just for the sake of consistency, because if people go look this up, this is what they're going to see. Most of this is still on point here, but there's one specific thing that is truly, truly interesting, and I'll get that in a minute. Inside Disney's Snow White troubles, they need to get this over with. Whoa.
Beautiful.
I was genuinely shocked that THR led with that. I mean, not that it was in the story. They led with this as the headline. Snow White troubles, they need to get this over with. Disney's live-action Snow White reboot starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot seemed like a can't-miss project 5 years ago. Wait, can I say that 5 years ago, I was not in the can't-miss camp? Okay? I was maybe, just like The Little Mermaid, I was in the shouldn't-miss camp. It shouldn't, but never can't, because it's Disney. And if there's one thing that the Walt Disney Company knows how to do is break things. But have some PR missteps combined with anti-woke outrage turned marketing the film into a poisoned apple. And as so many people out there on X are fans of pointing out, they are rooting for the poisoned apple in this movie. So I totally understand.
At this point, I mean, they've been spending on this movie since 2020. We're 5 years out at this point, and I don't know. I mean, obviously that's pre-production, but then also a heck of a lot of reshoots. We won't know for another 6 months what they spent on another year here, because I think we already know it's at least 300 million or something like that. I mean, that's not a quotable figure, but they have spent ridiculous amounts of money on this film at this point, and we really won't know until maybe a year and a half from now for sure how much they ended up spending on this, which is, I mean, what are the projections? 45, $50 million on opening day?
They have, I think they have it in this. I think this is the article they updated that in. But yeah, it's getting worse and worse, honestly. We had figures out there that were 60 to 70 million, then between 50 and 60. And now I think some of these are starting to dip into the, hopefully it'll hit 50 kind of range. But I think part of that's what's in here. But it just goes to show you how much trouble this movie is in. Disney's Snow White won't hit theaters till March 21st. But for the team at the Mouse House, that date can't come soon enough. Dude, it's 9 days from now. This article was written today. I just want to make clear that they're saying it won't hit theaters till next Friday, but Disney can't wait for it to be over with. This is how bad things are getting. The female skewing live action event picture, which remakes Walt Disney's cherished 1937 animated classic, has been under fire for years on social media due to a combination of the film's progressive creative decisions. What are the progressive creative decisions in this?
In all seriousness, or in actuality, they view quote unquote race blind casting. It wasn't race blind casting. We already know that they were hiring. They were looking at other actresses of color for the role. Anyways, better looking, nicer ones, by the way, based off of the interviews we've seen. There's also the fact that they had Greta Gerwig writing the screenplay. Notice she's not attached to this in any of the press at this point. So I don't know if they hacked her off, but she's one of the most bankable script writers out there in Hollywood. The fact that they have turned fairest of them all into some message that sounds like communism. How about that one?
Yeah.
I wouldn't exactly call that progress unless you're hoping to lose a lot of weight on a national level.
Well, I think the other progressive creative decision on this, and the big one, is the radical alteration to the character herself, which is not that the film, which is supposed to appeal, okay, to the audience, the female skewing live action event picture, right? This is a movie they're admitting skews female audience, which, duh, of course it does. But then they seem to miss the point where the progressive creative decisions was to remove a lot of the very things that draw that female audience in. Romance. And the movie, the original 1937 classic that was about true love and Snow White wanting to meet her prince, this has been a theme for little girls since then and before then. And they've wanted to eradicate all of that. They want to make this about Snow White being an independent woman and she don't need no man. The controversial comments by Rachel Zegler, while also suffering from culture war attacks that seemed doggedly determined to torpedo the perceived woke film no matter what. Because from the beginning, it looked like
trash.
Yes. You kind of knew it going in. As a result, Disney is handling the movie's rollout in some unique ways. And what's key about this is that Disney is terrified right now. And we can have the debate as to whether the Walt Disney Company is more terrified of YouTubers like you and I, or more terrified of their own star in this movie opening her fat mouth and making things even worse. I could go 50-50 on that. I'm sure they're more concerned about Rachel.
To be fair, she does have a pretty fat mouth.
She does. In news that broke earlier this week, Disney is taking next-level measures to stage manage the film's world premiere in Los Angeles on March 15th. While the event won't be scaled back, as some headlines have claimed, the studio isn't allowing regular red carpet press to attend in order to prevent Zegler and Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen, from answering questions on the spot. And again, are they really concerned that Gal Gadot is going to say something about, we'd love to have no terrorism in Israel? I mean, is that really a concern? Or are they really more concerned about Rachel Zegler not even necessarily saying something about Palestine or F Trump and I hope all of his voters die, or whatever she said before, which she did on her social media account. We did videos on it. I think they're more concerned about Rachel Zegler saying something else stupid about the movie. The studio's position is that they opted for a, quote, more celebratory, family-friendly afternoon event to match the tone and target audience for the film. But we're not going to let anybody come in and cover it. Except for Disney's own people. Now, look, and this is the whole thing. They're not pulling out the stops, right? They didn't, and this is the key. They didn't cancel the big party. They're still having the big party. They're still having the big soiree because they still want all the pictures and the photographs. Disney has decided the one big change, and it's a big change, is to still spend the money so they can keep up the appearances that this is a big, giant, big hit film, but they're not going to allow any of the actual press in there to cover it. It's all going to be tightly controlled by Disney's own stooges, which is an admission of failure to me at this point, and there's nothing else to read into this. Snow White isn't the first major film to manage a red carpet in such a restricted way. Warner Brothers did much the same for the world premiere of The Flash, which was also a disaster. And that's why. It's Ezra Miller. He is a mess. But Miller had been accused of several criminal acts, whereas Rachel Zegler has simply generated social media blowback for comments ranging from criticizing the original film to slamming Donald Trump. Here's the problem, guys, watching. It doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter whether Zegler and Ezra Miller had committed the same exact offenses or not. What matters is the fact that whatever they did is going to have a very similar impact on the eventual financial result at the box office. That's all that matters. It's not about the fact that Ezra Miller was charged with a criminal act or not, or Rachel Zegler or not. It's about what is going to happen to the box office sales. This was the next line of the Godot, meanwhile, is a divisive figure on social media. She is. Due to the Israeli actress speaking out in support of her native country since the October 7th terrorist attack by Hamas. Why? Why is she a divisive figure on social media? They picked that for her. Okay. I guess it's controversial to not want Islamic terrorism blowing people up. Okay. We'll go with that. The film, trailer below, also isn't getting a traditional UK premiere. Instead, Zegler, who won an open casting call to portray Maria in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, will perform in front of the castle in Segovia, Spain, that inspired the castle in Walt Disney's original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Disney was a bit bashful about Snow White. One theater owner and a rival studio source says Disney's massive marketing machine has been uncharacteristically quiet until recently, noting advance ticket sales didn't commence until Monday, less than 2 weeks before the film's release. Many of the studio's live-action family tentpoles in recent years have typically become available to book at least 1 month before the film opens, including last year's Christmas Mufasa, The Lion King, and 2023's summer tentpole, The Little Mermaid. Snow White, however, is a spring title coming out during a particularly quiet year, meaning it has little competition of rival films for girls and older females. And it's probably still going to do poorly. But that's, again, the first thing I noticed was that the tickets for this movie were not on sale 3 weeks before the movie was coming out, 2 weeks before the movie was coming out. Oh, we're going to release them 10 days before the movie drops. That's nuts to me. They have been going through the motions on Snow White, all but saying we need to get this thing over with, an exhibition source tells THR. And there's your pull quote. An advance sales cycle of less than 2 weeks just screams, we have zero faith in this thing. And it couldn't come at a worse point when the industry is just trying to limp along to May. Now, exhibition source, that could mean a few different things, but I'm going to go ahead and make the most logical and likely assumption that an exhibition source is a major theater owner. Think AMC. And they'd probably be right in everything they say here. Disney has been going through the motions on Snow White, all but saying we need to get this thing over with. I mean, if you've got theater owners or a major theater chain that is saying this to THR or Deadline or Variety, that's pretty bad. That's really, really bad because they're very familiar and very accustomed to dealing directly with the marketing departments of distributors like Disney. And if they're talking to their Disney distribution partners over there about this film and the theater owners are telling you that these people over at Disney marketing just want to get this over with, that's incredible to me. With a $400 million production of arguably the most iconic Disney character besides Mickey Mouse himself, the one that started it all for Walt, the very first Disney princess, and Disney wants to get this over with.
It's a rolling fire. Rachel Zegler is a public relations time bomb waiting to go off, and it has multiple payloads, apparently. She is a person that if she opens her mouth in front of an English-speaking person, everyone at Disney marketing, they just pucker up right there and are just waiting for her to stop. It's a roller coaster ride. It has to be amazingly exciting. I hope they have a sense of humor about it because otherwise this woman is probably going to give them all a coronary.
But I love this. Disney insiders dispute the narrative, saying that they've always intended to hold back the film's big promotional push until the final few weeks, beginning when Zegler and Godot presented together at the Oscars on March 2nd. I don't believe that. I understand not spending a boatload of money on paid advertising on social media or television commercials until 2 to 3 weeks before a movie comes out. But, not having any big promotional push until they walked out on stage at the Oscars. There's a few problems with this, Jonas, that I have is that, number one, they look very awkward on stage together. Everybody seemed to think so at the Oscars. Number two, the Oscars being on ABC, which is a Disney-owned television station, did they put the tickets on sale for this movie on March 2nd, Jonas?
No,
they
did it 8 days later.
They waited another 8 days to let tickets go out. By the way, we still have no early reviews, no Rotten Tomatoes score, nothing. They're going to hold this thing until, just like the last couple of Disney disasters, they're going to hold this thing until a couple of days before the release. But down here, Jonas, this is what I wanted to get to before you had to hop off. A previous version of the story incorrectly characterized the casting of the seven dwarves. THR, the Hollywood Reporter, regrets the error. And what they're referring to is a little paragraph in here. There were also erroneous reports regarding the seven dwarves from the outset. Webb, the director, intended them to be CGI characters based on the 1937 film. They say from the outset. We all remember the picture of the seven dirty hippies. That Disney, according to the UK Daily Mail, did confirm to them that that was an actual picture of their set, even though some others tried to deny it. Jonas, there was a discrepancy there from an earlier version of this article, was there not?
Yes, there was. I've got that for you if you want that pulled up
I've got
on
the
screen.
PDF. This is what THR removed. This was the original article that was published before they got a phone call from Disney. The production likewise originally cast a diverse group of actors of various sizes and genders, none of them were trans that we know of, to play the seven dwarves, which was met with uproar and mockery from purists when set photos leaked. The characters were then reworked with CGI to appear like the dwarves in the original film. That paragraph was struck and then replaced with what we just read on screen, which I'll reshare just to be clear. There were also erroneous reports regarding the seven dwarves from the outset. Webb intended for them to be CGI. Does anybody believe this?
So do you remember, on that note, when the original, was it The Guardian that posted those photos where you could see
I think the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a UK outlet, and they had not Rachel Zegler, but probably the actual guy who plays the prince or the bandit or whatever, and all those dirty hippies, as we've come to call them at this point. Disney at first kind of denied that was their production of Snow White. They pretended like that was not.
They denied it to Variety. And then they confirmed it to, I think, the Daily Mail again. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember at the time you pointed out, like, that drone right there, that's not an indie production drone. That is a massive camera drone. So they were already lying at the outset here. So why would we believe them now? Also, the Variety article is not like it's just some rookie reporter that happened to work on that one. That was from James Hibbard and Pamela McClintock. That had two authors on it. If they were checking each other and there was an editor, it's very hard for me to believe that they didn't have confirmation that Disney had made that change before they put it in writing on the Hollywood Reporter.
Yep. Here's the Daily Mail article, by the way. This was it. This is the picture they're referring to. This is what Disney tried to deny. This wasn't the real thing. And again, I'm sorry, it fits, because look, even in here, it cites the Peter Dinklage his personal controversy about how you can't make the seven dwarves anymore, Disney, because it's offensive to dwarves. That was Peter Dinklage, right? Screwing over every other dwarf actor out there. So then Disney wound up doing this. This is it. And they got caught. They had a stand-in for Rachel Zegler, because you don't need to bring the top talent back to do a pickup shoot with a drone, right? They were shooting aerial footage. See this? This was just somebody's iPhone. They're doing test shots. They wanted them walking through the field. They went back and they said, yes, we know this isn't Zegler. This was a stand-in for her in the costume, but everybody else there was, at the time, listed as part of the cast. Now, we don't know if these seven people are still going to be in the final product. They may have hit the cutting room floor altogether. It'll be interesting to see. But the reality is, this is where Disney was going. When this picture came out, when this article came out back in the summer of 23, this altered the entire trajectory of this film. It forced Disney, in large part, to have to go back and rework this whole movie from the ground up, because people were laughing so hard at this. They were so outraged. This is it. 14th July, 2023, right there. Okay, that's where we are. Good luck with Disney. Jonas, I know you got to run. Any final thoughts here before you have to go?
No, I think this whole thing, I'm kind of the same. I'm kind of tired of talking about Snow White. We see in the chat
too.
When people are saying, do you have another subject that you can talk about? This is basically another Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at this point.
It really is.
Where they try to say, no, this is the movie we intended to make. No, there is no way that this is the movie that you intended to make. I am looking forward to whatever the next thing is. I hear Fantastic Four is actually pretty good. Oh wait, Thunderbolts is first.
Yeah, Thunderbolts.
Good luck, and I hope that Rachel Zegler finds some line of work where she finds happiness within herself in a way that doesn't need so much outside validation that just is not going to come.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.